full stack developer with the .NET skill, and ASP.NET like C Sharp and ASP.NET Core, Web API, .NET 8, and NT Framework Core, SQL Server, and like these are the backend skills which I have worked, and including microservices. Other than this, I work with the front-end applications and which having that front-end skills like React and Angular, which I majorly work on. On the other side, like I've also worked with the cloud, and where I have worked with the AWS and Azure services. During my career, like I worked across like banking and insurance domain application, and HRMS application, logistics, cloud communication, and somewhere I'm also involved for retail websites, retail applications, and textile industries. I have been like completely involved in software development lifecycle, including the requirement analysis, application designing, backend API development, and some front-end development, and some database design and code review. Sometimes I also involved for the unit testing and deployments, and somewhere if there could be some chance of the production support, so I also participated to resolve some issues. And if I'm talking about my current role, I'm currently working in Wipro, and I am like currently work on enterprise banking application where I'm like developing and the application which could be the scalable and everything on microservices architecture, and trying to build some responsive application from the UI side using React and AngularJS and Angular, and trying to optimize whenever some queries from the SQL set needs to be optimized, and trying to build some that collaboration with the cross-functional teams and using in the agile environment. And yeah, so looking
So the architecture of this project?
Sorry?
Architecture of this project which you're using currently?
That will be the clean architecture. We are following that microservice pattern, and we have that front-end application there. Then we have some Azure services. We have some other than this. Under that, we are using that ASP.NET Core, those APIs, and with the gateways. So we have then different models for different services for this application, like customer transaction or payment, credit card department. Other than this, we are using then database and Redis cache.
Okay, perfect. Sure. Okay. So I think you joined Wipro in 2023, I guess.
Yeah, July 2023.
No, so last 3 years you are in Wipro.
Yeah.
Okay. So would you mind sharing your screen? Small code snippet.
Is it visible?
Yeah. And you can open Notepad and yeah, I've shared.
Okay. Okay, you have shared, I guess.
Yeah, I already shared it. You can copy and paste it here.
Okay. So we have an this string we have, and
Sorry?
which we need to be followed.
Yeah, we need to find the longest substring. If let's say you see ABC, PP, right? So the longest one, which creates a substring, let's say ABCD. So then the length will be 4 and ABCD will be printed. In the second one, if you see PWW, KEW. Okay. So the longest substring becomes WKE. After that, sequence is not matching. So like that, we have to figure out.
So that we have to write that code. We can use that dictionary also, no?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. We can. So,
Sorry, sorry. You want to say something?
no. I'm just checking like what solution we have.
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, continue, please.
We can create dictionary for this. Okay. Can checking the syntax. I'm not sure, but sometimes the syntax not right.
You can totally ignore the syntaxes. Just write the uh, logic. That's totally fine.
Yeah. Next line, we can clear this one. Taking some variable for string.
Okay, Nirdosh, we can ignore this one. You can just send me this output.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start with .NET.
No, I'm just writing it.
Okay.
Just give me one. Will it okay now? Hello? That all this will be completed, and you can use that string as dot substring. We can start
Okay, it looks good. It's totally fine. So Nirtosh, let's say on UI side, whenever you know
Hello.
some user action. Hello, am I audible?
I'm audible?
Yeah, you are. Yeah, this is fine. This is correct. It's fine. So shall I continue? Am I audible properly?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say on UI side, uh, an action happens. Okay, a user, let's say, clicks on a button or something, and that request comes to our backend API, and then eventually put some data in the database. So can you help me understand the entire flow end to end?
So the request is comes from the data from that end, and we need to fill
From
that
a UI
data.
side, let's say a user fills up a form, and that data has to be, submitted to the database eventually. So how the request will flow from front end to back end and then eventually go to
Okay.
database?
Yeah, something like any data we can insert. No? So
Any data.
generally,
I mean, let's say name, employee ID, mail ID, whatever. People.
Generally, what happened if the user like clicking something,
Your voice is breaking in between, and your voice is also low.
Hello.
Yeah, better now. Please continue.
I'm audible, no?
Now better. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So whenever some user needs to click on some that button, any form is there, and there are some fields which need to be stored. So we have to first validate those data from the client side for date string interpolation or something like that do not have dirty string. And after that, if all the things from the UI side it works, then we will create a post request from the API side, and we have that post API which is already ready from our backend, and that API will be called, and the request which is when to if I'm using that ASP.NET Core, so it reaches to that ASP.NET Core application, and then it goes to the middleware pipeline, and then the request passes through those middleware, whatever we have for checking for those other things in the middleware side, SSL handling or authentication or side for authorization also, and then everything works there. So it will be moved to that controller part, and that receives the request. Then controller part will execute the request, and controller calls those different service layer which we have implemented to execute those API request with the business logic we perform. So business validation happens there, and whatever the things we have requested, like either we have like different kinds of fields in the business rules. So those fields should be checked there, like email or exist or not, of that name which we are trying to insert, that will be happen or not. After that, all the things working there, then service calls to the repository layer, and then repository layer will be called here, and repository will uses those whatever that DB context we are making for that for the database side. So we are like using a entity framework code. So we will like initialize that here, and the table we have, suppose like user, so it will be called and add those save changes, and then that entity framework will generate the testful statement to insert that command, to insert that data. So in the last, like SQL Server will store that data side and then return some data, whatever that if the call is happened successfully, and then it returns to the success matches. And same, the repository will call to the service to the controller, then controller to that returns the response, and simply we will receive from the UI side. Then that data is added to the customer. We can show the snap market.
Perfect. Perfect. So in the middleware pipeline, whatever middlewares, let's say you are using, so how they are, connected with each other, different middlewares? What is something which actually helps us to either to, navigate to the next middleware, or maybe to, branch a new one, or maybe simply terminate the middleware? What we use
I can say,
for that?
yeah, go on.
Use some extension method, right?
We generally, like whenever the request comes, so how middleware will be like connected to those request dedicates, and that each the middleware receives whatever that HTTP request we're performing, and then call to the next middleware by like invoking it. That awake next, we are saying, we are calling for that context. And if like does not like call to the next context, then the pipeline stops there only if it is not mean to be executed.
Perfect. You can stop sharing, that's totally fine. And let's say there is a singleton service, okay? If it is directly
business
singleton service, there is a service which is injected as a singleton. Now, what if, let's say, that directly depends on DB context?
So we have a service which is in singleton service, and what if like which is directly?
What if it depends on DB context?
Depends on DB context. I can say the service will be like executed, and singleton will be like, we can say it should not directly depend on DB context, because the DB context is generally that
scope.
We already registered as in scope one.
Yes,
so we cannot say it will directly depend. So singleton will just like created only for that particular lifetime, only once in a lifetime.
That's exactly what I was
cannot be. Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case. Yes, correct. So in the security way, have you used or implemented JWT, or if you just have seen it?
JWT, I have used.
Okay. So can you explain me end-to-end flow of how we implement JWT authentication?
I have like used in recent applications. So what happens in JWT? I can example from the front end side how it is working. So we have the login of the user screen. So we will generate do that login implementation, and suppose the login happens from the user side in the in any like application React or Angular. So when the user entity whatever the credentials they have, that will be goes to the ASP.NET our backend application, and validate those user from those databases. And if that will be that working fine there, then it will generate those JWT token, and that return those tokens to the UI side. So UI will store that token, and like in the HTTP cookie, like secure storage if we have. And on every other API, that authorization barrier will fall with the token. And for other APIs, and JWT authentication middleware will like validate that particular token with that signature and expiry.
And who will be responsible for that? Which
Sorry?
component of JWT? Which component of JWT will be responsible to validate those token?
Responsible for token validation.
Yeah.
So majorly that component will be called, I can say that JWT middleware basically that will be happens to particularly validating that.
But JWT has got three components, right? Header, payload, and signature.
Token validation parameters that will be called.
It is actually the signature which validates.
Signature is the
Against the
validator
signature.
issue which we are storing. That will be automatically passed when with the expiry and those things. And
while
validating audiences also.
It has to be matched against the signature, right?
Yeah, yeah. Signature has to be matched.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. Okay. So what is the difference between DB context and DB set in Entity Framework Core?
DB context, DB set, I can say the DB context we are generally using whenever we need to implement that particular in the Authentication framework, or and that needs to be represent that database session and manages the database connection and change those tracing tracking I can say, and contains multiple DB set under those DB context, and also like calls those save a save channel for the persistent changes. And while in DB set, like it generally represent for a particular table in the database and use query to for performing some operations and from the database side for a specific entity. And each DB set like will match to one table only, and does not like save that data for itself only.
Sure, thank you. And on microservices side, how you make sure that two microservices communicate properly with each other? What mechanism, first of all, you use to communicate between different microservices?
I can say like different microservices generally be communicated when with each other by synchronous channel and asynchronous channel. And the choice depends on whether what we have to like immediate that particular response which will be required from that side. So based on that, we generally use the communication channel. And synchronous communication we will done with the real time, like if uses some REST API or over the HTTP or HTTPS. So that time that calling some service which can wait for this response, so we can use for the synchronous one. Especially like if I'm taking example of banking one, so we use that particular channel for synchronous one when we're doing some payment validation or some customer details, that kind of task we need to perform. And in asynchronous communication, we will call like that event driven. We have to generally use for the message brokers such as like RabbitQ, or sometimes like Kafka is also there. So with the needs to be sent those publisher messages and like continued processing without like waiting for the response time.
So I think you've used RabbitMQ, I guess, right?
RabbitMQ and Kafka little bit I am like used in my application somewhere. That will be
what's the difference between? Okay. Yeah. So what's the difference between queue and a topic?
RabbitQ and topic?
No. Okay. Difference between queue and a topic. Have you heard of this concept?
I guess not much I have done in like RabbitMQ, but I can say like when the topic we will be using in RabbitQ. So topic exchange we generally perform when that message can be delivered within multiple queues. So based on like whatever routing keys we are following. And messaging queue is like when we are consumed by one consumer and will be used only for point to point like communication, and that's what we queues will be used. And topic generally uses for publishing those subscribe communication, but we already subscribed that one.
Perfect. Perfect. So on React side, what are the different component lifecycle we have on React?
Different component
lifecycle hooks. Yeah.
Yeah. I can say we had different life cycles that for the component that will be like we have the mounting one. So that mounting one is just we used to be created for the component side, and we can use the method for constructor and render, and component did mount. We will be called for the mounting for that when we need to mount that. And example, I can say the use effect that will be the most common which we generally use for the component one. And we have that updating where we need to give provide them state or the prop changes. So we will call the method for like I can say like component did update and render also. So that will be the most one also uses when we are fetching some data from the filter change and updating some UI based on the whatever the state we have. And unmounting, that will be also called when component is like removed. So we will be called for those component like will unmount, and the method will be called for that. So whenever we need to require some event listeners, remove some event listeners or clear some timers, we can call that one. So yeah.
What is virtual DOM in React?
Virtual DOM, I can say we will be used whenever like we have particular scenario we need to be implement. We need to show some memory representation. So that time that real DOM is not will be properly used. So React like uses it to improve the performance by like updating that particular part of that UI and that need to be changed instead of like re-rendering that entire page. So the virtual DOM basically the concept of that showing that particular change without completely loading that particular whole page. Yeah. So real impact like users when they were performing some action, example click or button, so that time it will be working fine there. React updates that particular section of state.
Exactly. Let's say a few questions on JavaScript. Do you see what exactly happened with closure? What is the role of closure?
Closure, I can say we can use whenever that we have some inner functions and that can be accessed the variables of its like outer function. So even after the route that outer function has finished executing, so that closure will become there. So suppose like the counter is like that counter function we need to call. So it like creates the local variable, and we can have that we can initialize that count equal to 0. So it will return that inner function, and even after when counter function finishes, the inner function remembers that count variable because that is will be the treated as a closure of it, and we can like. We can say like the real-time scenario we are using like when we are doing some data hiding or providing some counters or some event handlers. So and some callback that time we majorly use. So basically that will be very useful in the JavaScript side whenever we need to create some inner functions and retain some their access values.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much, Nirdesh. I mean, it was a great session with you. I will update HR and they'll get back to you. Great knowledge. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Goodbye.
Have a nice day. Thank you.